Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I want to welcome this morning John Kello. John is a professor of Psychology Emeritus from Davidson College. His academic focus is on industrial organizational psychology. He started his own consulting firm in 1990, focusing on organizational effectiveness, especially in the area of safety, which is obviously a very important topic for a lot of companies, especially B2B companies. He's also a longtime friend and advisor for me personally and our firm, and we've had many years of very, very fruitful relationship with John. So, John, welcome.
Obviously, there's a relationship between safety and the risk of overstress and burnout. And I've worked with healthcare organizations and co-authored a book on the burned out physician, came out in 2022. So burnout and safety have really become focal points of my consulting and my research. And I define my professional model as a deep generalist, by which I mean I'm interested in many, many things, and I like the cross-fertilization of ideas from different disciplines. So I try to keep in touch broadly with what's going on in psychology and in medical research as well. But there are a couple of areas where I can claim deep expertise, and safety and issues of burnout would be prominently two of those areas.
John, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today is I think there's some parallels in terms of customer experience changes and the safety models that I see being used in many companies. And I think a lot of companies have made some great strides in improving their safety culture. And I do emphasize the word culture because I think in the work we're doing right now with customer experience, our clients have put in a survey feedback process. They're managing the short-term issues that may arise with the customer quite well, but they hit this thing to really improve their CX, this little thing called culture. And that's what I really want to focus on today, because I do think there's a parallel between what you've learned and what you've done in safety and how you change cultures, and also in this whole CX world. So I guess the first thing I have a question, John, is how do you define culture? You know, most managers I talk to know when there's a good one and a not so good one, but don't have a crisp definition of what it is. What's your definition of culture?
One of the shorthand definitions that I think makes a lot of sense is culture is the personality of the organization. That there's a strong parallel between an individual's personality and the personality/culture of the organization. So the idea of organizational culture, company culture, and any element of the culture, safety culture, CX culture, the culture concept is borrowed from anthropology. So anthropologists look at different national cultures, which we were talking about a little bit earlier. But when the concept was imported really only in the 1980s and 1990s into the organizational world, the concept began to focus on, quote unquote, what it's like to work here. How do things get done here? How are decisions made? What is valued here? What is expected of our employees? How are our employees and our customers and our suppliers, how are they treated? How do we deal with them? So there will be norms of behavior. And this is, again, pretty directly from cultural anthropology. There will be norms of behavior that identify what you should do here, what's expected, what's valued here. Those norms will identify what we don't do, things that will not be approved, things that will not be valued here. So the critical thing, I think, for organizations in this whole area of culture is to recognize how powerful the culture is as a set of guidelines and expectations and requirements for daily, monthly, annual behavior in the organization, to identify what are their core values. And that's really at the heart of the culture. What are our non-negotiable values and beliefs from which everything else springs, including our strategic plans, including our daily behavior, how we do performance reviews. So identify those core values, the non-negotiable, no matter what, these are our commitments. And then from those core values, identify Are we living those values? And I'm borrowing some of the language from cultural research, is our enacted culture consistent with our envisioned culture? Because our vision, mission, value statements typically are, I mean, they're the envisioned culture. This is who we claim to be and who we want to be. Well, are we actually consonant in our daily behavior with those core values? Have we highlighted the core values of, for example, safety, for example, CX, for example, trusting and valuing our employees and stakeholders, for example, excellence in all we do, striving for excellence, the good want to get better. Let's identify those core values, and then let's look at whether and to what extent we are actually enacting those core values that we envision as capturing the culture of the organization. Does that make sense to you, Lynn?
Yeah, it's interesting. We need to think of it almost as guardrails uh, for where you know when you're getting too close to that guardrail, or you know when you've gone over that guardrail.
Mm-hmm.
But in some cases, the guardrails are not clear, and that comes
And
back to values, defining those values.
what I have done in my work, especially in safety, and um, as you know, I wrote a column in the series called Positive Cultures. I
Yep.
wrote a column for 15 years for the International Safety Journal, Industrial Safety and Hygiene News, and the focus in safety culture, what we worked to do was first of all establish with the client organization, is this really a non-negotiable core value for you? Because as I work with your people and I do training with you and your people, we lay out the fundamentals of this approach to safe work. If this is just just a priority, because priorities can change, as opposed to a non-negotiable core value, let's get clear on that up front. And from working to clarify what is your commitment to safe work, that has laid the foundation for, well, what is your commitment to CX? Well, what is your commitment to the community in which you operate? So several of the companies that I work with, my initial contact was in the safety arena, helping them to build a positive safety culture and identifying very explicitly what are the markers, what are the visible indicators of this positive safety culture. When we're there, what is